So yeah, we gotta finish up the ceilings. We already did the Western Conference ceilings. Let's do the Eastern Conference ceilings. Like I was just telling you a while ago, half the conference in the East is pretty much a wash. Like Chicago Bulls, Detroit Pistons, Toronto Raptors, Brooklyn Nets, Washington Wizards, Charlotte Hornets. I'm not gonna hold you low key. I kind of want to throw the Hawks in there. I really don't know how good they'll
Yeah,
be. We
I
could
was gonna
kind of
say the Hawks as well.
we could start with them, like out of respect. I do. I like Trey Young. I'm a Trey Young fan. I say play in a tournament just
Yeah,
out of respect for. I don't really. It's a young roster. They traded Dejounte Murray. Like, I don't really know. Well, if you're a Hawks fan, I think you would hope that Jalen Johnson would take like another leap in his game. I think he averaged 16 points per game last season. If he could take another leap for real, like, but other than that, like, I don't know what else you could be optimistic about in this upcoming season.
I mean, you got to be optimistic over your number one pick. You know, they got Zachary Risachet, who, I mean, I
Yeah,
think most people feel like this is a lackluster draft class, but he was a top pick, so you got to expect something from him.
yeah, you're right.
Uh, I personally don't see Trey Young staying in Atlanta much longer. I think he was already kind of. It's already been like rumors of him being traded to certain teams over the past year and some change. So I mean, with this roster, I don't really think they really got. I think it's obvious rebuild. I don't think Trey Young is trying to stick around for a rebuild, and it's just not much on this roster. So yeah, I mean, play in is definitely ceiling for them. I don't see them if they get to the actual playoffs. I don't see them making it past the first round. Unfortunately for them, it's just tough situation for them. Just kind of they got to that Eastern Conference Finals. What was it, 4 years ago or so? And since then, it's just been kind of
I
uh
think it was when the
free
Bucks
fall.
won the Bucks won the championship. That was 2021, right? When they beat the Suns in the finals. I think they had beat the Hawks when they made that kind of like majestic run to the Eastern Conference Finals. Lightning in the
Yeah,
bottle for real.
yeah.
Uh,
But yeah, it
quick,
sucks for them, man. It's just been tough 4 years for them, man.
quick side quest: Trey Young over under in a Hawks uniform, 12 months. The next 12 months, what you got? Over under? Well, not over under, but like he'll be a Hawk 12 months.
I'll say no. I'll say under. I don't think he will be. I think he'll be gone. I think trade deadline this upcoming trade deadline. I think he'll be out of there.
Dang. Yep. Well, to the team that's actually contending, let's start with the shout out to 2024 NBA Finals champ. Y'all beat my Mavs in five. Boston Celtics. I'll let you kick it off.
I mean, I think this goes without saying. I mean, we brought back every single player from the roster. We also got Lonnie Walker, who I think is kind of a sleeper pickup from the used to play for the Spurs, and then he was also with a couple of the squads. But I love just picking him up just to get some extra depth off the bench. For us, it's clearly championship or bust.
Right.
A lot of disrespect we've been tolerating this offseason from Tatum kind of missing a couple of those Olympic games, being sad, and people saying he has no personality, this and that. Obviously, Jalen Brown being left off the team a couple times for one of his teammates. Just a lot of people doubting the Celtics, but I think we get Porzingis back healthy. We ain't got to rush him back. Let him kind of do his rehab and get right. But we got the roster. We got two all NBA well, should be all NBA players and one of the best role players in NBA history. Got Derek White. So you got two defensive player of the year candidates. You got two bona fide all stars. You got Porzingis coming back. You got championship caliber team now, championship coach. I think obviously the ceiling is NBA Finals, and I think we still the favorites. I think we clearly the odds on favorites. So that's what it is for us.
Let me ask you something real quick before we move on to the next team. With Kristaps Porzingis, you're not a casual fan, so you kind of know like certain things. But as far as Kristaps Porzingis goes, you knew the risk in acquiring him as a fan. So like with the injury things, you kind of like this is kind of what it is. Is that your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, you already kind of know what you're dealing with before you even trade for him and pay a guy like that. So, I mean, he made it through most of the season. Unfortunately, right there in the first round, he kind of got hurt, but still, he was able to come back and get you a couple games in the finals, and the goal was met. We achieved the goal of getting the championship. So, obviously, the gamble paid off. And then, yeah, he still had his surgery, and he's got to get right, but we still even without him, we were like 21-4 or something. Like we had a pretty good record without him. So we've shown that we can win without him. We can supplement kind of those points. I mean, obviously he's a unicorn, so it's a lot that he does that you miss, but you got good enough players around him to where you can do with or without. So it was a gamble we took, and it paid off, and they're hoping to spin the block and do it again. 'Cause I mean, you can't doubt that game he had, that game one in the finals. He won us that game. You know, it was just an incredible game. Just kind of showing his what he can do as a player from all aspects of the court, just stretching the field, blocking shots, just everything. He was just all over the place, and he couldn't be stopped. So he's showing his potential. Obviously, I mean, as almost 10 years in, we should already know your potential, but the injury bug is just something that's always bitten him. And so when he gets a chance to show it, he showed it, and he got a ring for it. So can't be
Right.
upset at him.
Yeah, I think it's championship, but I really can't see anything less than a championship appearance for the most part. I just like you said, they ran everybody back. Continuity. Everybody is a Joe Mazzulla believer at this point. He showed nothing less, and I'm a big Drew Holiday fan. I feel like I said, I'm on record for saying he's the most underrated player of our generation. Shout out to him, two-time NBA champ. I don't know. I feel like in the East, like y'all kind of know what y'all doing already. A lot of other teams they got like a lot of pieces coming in, so it's kind of like you kind of got to see what's what as far as like chemistry goes. For y'all, for the most part, it's just get back on the court and do what we do best. So there's no questions with the Boston Celtics. Only question we have is when is Porzingis actually coming back. Other than that, like we kind of know what it is.
Yeah.
Um, New York Knicks. We just talked about them in the Karl Anthony Towns video, but with those guys, I think the ceiling. I'm gonna say championship. I do believe in what they're doing over there. I feel like they're very competent. As of late, they've been making a lot of strides, making a lot of improvements with the roster. I feel like they keep trying to extend this championship window that they have, and I feel like they're doing a great job. I feel like with all of the players they've acquired over the past 12 months, you can't help but be impressed. Like OG Anunoby, Miles Bridges, now Karl Anthony Towns. I feel like this is a roster that can definitely compete for a championship. Obviously, you got questions with Mitchell Robinson. I feel like if he's not the starter, when at some point during the season, I can't see him being a starter now, but a viable backup. I don't know what his availability will be, but I kind of like what they're doing. I feel like they can win the championship if everybody's healthy.
Yeah, the ceiling should be a championship. I think you can argue that this is one of the top 3 rosters in the NBA now. Like this roster is really good. You got a great defensive mindset team with a coach who's always preaching defense first. So you bring in a guy like Cat, get him to buy in. He has continuity. He's played for Tom Thibodeau before, so I think their only issue is gonna be really with the Celtics. The Celtics they had that kind of not a brand new team, but some new pieces to that team they brought in, and they were able to mesh right away and kind of get that championship. So we'll see if the Knicks are able to kind of replicate what the Celtics did last season and just kind of
Mhm.
hit the ground running, not miss a beat. Look like you've been playing together for years and get to a ring. It's gonna be tough. But I think their ceiling is a championship, and that's what they built this roster for. So it's gonna be nice to see how they pair up with the top teams in the East, like the Sixers, the Celtics, the Bucks. I think those are pretty much the top 4.
Mhm.
I want to see how they hold up against them with this new roster because um, looking at the West, I think they can pretty much match up with anybody in the West to me. So I think it's all about this Eastern Conference and how I think the seeding is going to be very important. Like you want to get the number 1 seed to have that full home court advantage if you get to the Eastern Conference Finals, but you also want to try and you don't want to go to Milwaukee and play. You know how those fans can be. They get rabid in Milwaukee because that's really the only sports thing they got going from that's actually good. I mean, I guess the Packers are right now, but like those type of teams, like those smaller market teams that they fans are really about it. Like if they get back there with Giannis, it's gonna be tough playing there in a 7-game series. And Philly, we already know how Philly fans are, so you don't want to be in those environments in the playoffs. So I think the Knicks got a good shot at winning this championship. They just gotta stay healthy. That's their number 1 issue is staying healthy and just stay on track. So yeah, the ceiling is a championship.
For me personally, those might be my last 2 teams that I will say the ceiling is a championship. For reasons that we'll get to later. Um, Next on the list, we got the Miami Heat. I feel like this is one of the more interesting teams in the Eastern Conference. They didn't have a clean bill of health last year, especially going into the playoffs. A lot of people might have forgot that Terry Rozier is actually on the roster, who I'm actually a fan of. I think Terry is dope. He had some great moments for y'all as the
Yeah.
Celtics. Guys like him, They got Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Jaime Jaquez, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. I can't remember who it was. Somebody said that they felt like Tyler Hero kind of plateaued. How you feel about that at this point?
I wouldn't say that. I think he's still kind of growing as a player. He's another thing like injuries with him. He's always kind of had these injuries kind of nagging him along the way. But I mean, we've seen him be a 6 man of the year candidate. We've seen him be damn near all-star candidate. So I don't think he's plateaued. But I do think the team in general has plateaued. I think we've seen the ceiling for the Miami Heat already, which I mean they made a couple of finals appearances. So I mean it's not a bad ceiling, but I just don't see this roster being able to push through the East and making it, past the second round of the playoffs. Jimmy Butler is just another year older, and there's already been questions about him. Bam, I feel like he's been the same player for I don't know how many years now. I feel like I haven't seen much progression. He's great, but I haven't seen much progression to becoming like a championship caliber, like being able to carry a team to a championship. Duncan Robinson is who he is. I like Jaquez Jr. I like him a lot, but
Like him a
just
lot.
in general, I feel like this team, even with the great coach, they got one of the best coaches in the NBA with Spoelstra. But I just think this roster is not. They don't have enough to get it done. I was hoping they were gonna be one of the teams that made a move in the offseason, like a real splash to try and like get over that hump. But they kind of stood and watched everything else happen and didn't really. I guess they kind of banking on themselves being able to get there based off experience, but I don't see that being
Yep.
enough this time around with some of these teams like the Sixers getting Paul George and obviously the Knicks. I think it's just too tough of a road to be able to make it through there. So I think second round playoffs for them is kind of their ceiling, and their floor would be like play in. So which is where they were this past season. So yeah, that's what I got for the Heat.
Yeah, so you hit a lot of key points I kind of want to agree with you on. I feel like when they made that finals run, what was that, 2023? They made that finals run against the Nuggets. I said at some point they were going to run out of talent, and it ended up being in the NBA Finals. Shout out to them for making that run in the first place. But I feel like at the Eastern Conference, it's so top heavy now. It's so star-studded at the top. I feel like with guys like Jalen Brunson, Tatum, Jalen Brown, Joel Embiid, Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Giannis, Dame. It's just a lot of people you got to go through, and I don't know if they'll be
Yeah,
able. I don't think they have another run in them like that because it's so much talent at the top of the Eastern Conference this time around. And like you said, I trust Eric Spoelstra. I'm an Eric Spoelstra believer. I think he's one of the best coaches in the game. But I just don't even know if he can really. I don't know if he has the horses to make another run like that. And not for nothing, I don't know if they actually have the pieces to pull off another trade. I don't know what they're looking like
yeah.
on the books, but I just don't know like what trade packages they really have. It seemed like one of those teams you might have to get like a third team involved to really pull off something crazy, but I don't really see them making another run like that. I might have to agree with you on that. I think actually, to be honest with you, I might say first round for real because
Mm.
with that roster and with the health problems they've had lately, if that happens again, you might have to play like a Philly or New York or Boston in the first round.
Right.
Even when healthy, I just can't see them overcoming a juggernaut in one of those teams for real. So you said second round, I got first.
And that's why I was really wishing last year they would have pulled the trigger on that trade for Dame, because that would have just been another like superstar player to go alongside Jimmy Butler and Bam. Obviously, you would have lost out on Tyler Hero and a couple other pieces, but I just think with a top heavy conference like this, you almost want to have sort of either like a really well balanced roster or a real top heavy roster, and that would have made them a top heavy roster getting Dame. But like I said, they still packed and stuck with what they had. So now I think, I mean, if Spoelstra can coach his way to a finals this year, I would put him on the Mount Rushmore of coaches.
Oh, you bro.
But I don't see it happening. But he's a genius, so you never know. It would be a hell of a coaching job.
Let's switch it up a little bit. Orlando Magic. I feel like this is a team. It's three teams in the Eastern Conference. We'll talk about the other two, but it's Orlando, Cleveland, and Indiana. I feel like that's like the second tier in the Eastern Conference. I feel like they in some interesting situations, but let's start off with Orlando. I want to say second round with this team. I feel like that's the ceiling. I love Paulo. I know people have like efficiency questions with him, but he's still so young, and I don't think Paulo's nowhere near his potential. If you're a Magic fan, you kind of banking on the bounce back Franz Wagner season. Um, Jonathan Isaac. Caldwell Pope, Jalen Suggs. From a defensive standpoint, they're gonna be a lot to deal with, especially on the perimeter with guys like Contavious Caldwell Pope and Jalen Suggs. I feel like that's gonna
Yeah.
be a lot. Um, I really do like this team. How you feel about their ceiling?
I think yeah, second round. I think with this team, it's gonna be kind of a like if they keep this roster together, it's gonna be kind of a slow burn. Like they kind of making like small increments, getting better and better. And I don't see them making much more of a jump from what they did this past season, where they had a great first round series with Cleveland, won 7 games, and they kind of ran out of gas.
Mhm.
I like Paolo a lot, like you said, because he's 6'10". He can score from. He's a 3 level scorer. He can play some defense. He's getting better on that end, and becoming a better playmaker, more efficient. But I like the Wagner brothers. I think France kind of got. I don't know. I'm not with the. Did they pay him yet, or was he? Was I know he was rumored to get paid that big
He,
contract.
he got paid.
Yeah, that was a lot of money for him. So I was kind of iffy about that. But they got a lot of good young players, like I said, Jonathan Isaac on the perimeter. So I think they'll get like incrementally better, but I don't see them like you said first. For them, I might say first round. It's kind of going to depend on who they get matched up with,
Yes, for sure.
but yeah, I don't see them really first round series win might be like their peak. I think they just kind of either got to make a splash and get another All Star in there with them, or just kind of rely on development. And those guys just getting better naturally, and it's a weird spot to be in. But they got, like I said, Paolo's only going into his 3rd season, so they'll be fine.
And I know it's kind of crazy. Somebody may watch this and say he had the Heat in the first, but the Magic in the second. If you kind of look at it like I said, from a defensive standpoint, they got one of the best defenders in the games in Jalen Suggs.
Mhm.
And a lot of people talk about like Anthony Edwards, Luka, Tatum. I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like Paolo is somebody we really should be talking about. His first year, they weren't really competitive. His second season, they make the playoffs. So it's like you kind of see like the leaps, in the leaps. What leap will he make this in his 3rd season? I feel
Yeah.
like Paolo is just a guy we should just be discussing at this point. I got my Paolo stock. It's ready to go. You know what I'm saying? So it's just how I feel about them. Philly. You want to jump?
I go, yeah. I'm high on Philly. I was one of the people that I really love the Paul George trade. I think Paul George as a 3rd option is going to be a serious problem. I think we can probably see like a resurgence of like not of his career because he's had a good past couple seasons, but just a resurgence in like the energy and like
Right.
playing like real like they played meaningful basketball with the Clippers, but there was always that like Kawhi's hurt, Paul's hurt, it always seemed something always seemed off with them in the playoffs for the Clippers. We know Embiid is like itching to get to an Eastern Conference Finals. He's never been out the second round of playoffs. I love the Embiid and Maxey 1-2. So having Paul George come in as a 3rd option, and then also having Kelly Oubre, I really like that roster. I think this is gonna fuel Embiid to kind of like hopefully you don't have him averaging 40 points now. You kind of bring his usage down and kind of let him pace himself for the playoffs to where he's healthy. They can
Right.
get through a series because a lot of these teams, like the one issue they got is just injuries. Like you got to be healthy when it comes to that time of the season. We know Maxey's going to be ready and good to go. He's young. He's proven that he can be an all-star and he can carry a team in the absence of an Embiid and of other star players. So at this point, it's just kind of pacing yourself, staying healthy, and then getting to the dance. Because I think this team, man, you got a bunch of good. I mean, obviously, Embiid is a great defender, great scorer. Paul George, same thing. Maxey's a great scorer. He can give you 40 on a night if he needs to. Oubre is an enforcer. He can score. He can give you 25 on a good night. So they got some stuff over there in Philly. It's just pulling it together. I want to see how they mesh. Nick Nurse, that's another great coach. He's a championship coach. So yeah, I'm high on them. I think their ceiling is going to be Eastern Conference Finals. I can see them getting there and surprising a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that's the same ceiling. I'm gonna go with Eastern Conference Finals. Um, I feel like Joel Embiid is in an interesting situation for real. I feel like this is he still has some youth to him, but it's like at this point the injuries are starting to accumulate, and it's
Yeah,
like when the playoffs come around, it's like you never at tip top shape. You know what I'm saying? I feel like this is a season that could kind of make or break the narrative on Joel Embiid, kind of how we look at him, because history will tell you that the older a big man gets, the less healthy he'll become. And with him, like the injuries, there's no shortage of injuries on his side. It's just like what I said. When is he gonna put together a memorable playoff run to kind of push through to that third round. Because for the most part, y'all have owned Joel Embiid for as long as I can remember. In the Boston Celtics, he hasn't had any success against y'all. And as far as Tyrese Maxey goes, like all in, it's like I have zero questions. He even put on some muscle in the offseason. It's kind of like he's kind of preparing himself if and when he kind of has to like shoulder the load this year. He does have a player that can help him if and when Joel Embiid goes down, and Paul George, like you said, Kelly Oubre. I love the Caleb Martin pickup. I feel like that was one of the steal and free agencies. I thought that was a crazy move. A shout out to them for that. But I feel like that's just the sucky part about this team. Like it kind of depends on health. Paul George has put together a clean bill of health as of late. You only as good as what you've done lately. I feel like he's been pretty healthy. And
Yeah.
this will kind of be his third time or first time, excuse me, being in like that kind of thirdish role. However you can depict him with the Clippers in the 1 through 3 punches, whatever. Kawhi was kind of hurt, so you could say 1 or 2. But in this team, he's definitely the third option. I feel like that's kind of a chill role for him. He can kind of lay back, kind of pick his spots when he need to. If Tyrese and Joel are on the bench, he could kind of run the offense. You can kind of run it through him. I believe he could give you 21 a game on this team, 20 to 21 points a game on this team. I feel like that's kind of the sweet spot for him.
Yeah.
I just hate that this season's gonna come down to health because you got players that have riddle injury history. So, yeah.
Man, I'm looking at this roster. This might be
It's his
this
best
is a
roster.
really good roster. You got Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry. You got the rookie Jared McClain, who I think is going to be decent. You picked up Yabusele, who had a great Olympics. Used to play for the Celtics. I like that pickup. So they got some players. You got Drummond back over there to back up Embiid. I think Embiid got to play less minutes and just let the team pull some of the weight. Like I don't think he should be going for MVP. I don't want to see him in the MVP candidate category this year. I want to see him average 25 to 27. I want to see, 10 to 12 rebounds. I want him playing not over 30 something minutes, like maybe 30 minutes a game. Like I just want to see them pace him, sit him down, because he might be his own worst enemy. I just want to see him take a back seat, let this team do most of the heavy lifting in the regular season. And then when the playoffs get here, you establish your dominance because we know what you can do. I just want to see him get there. That's it.
Because at this point, like you won the MVP, you just got the brand new extension. I think it was like a week ago. Mm-hmm. So it's like, think about the long game. Think about May and June. You gotta think about stuff like this at this point. Like trying to really like the NBA MVP award. Like we kind of gotta tone that down. Like it's kind of what you're saying. You got to think about the finish line for real.
Yeah.
You got the supporting cast. I feel like this is his best roster since he's been a pro. That's just my personal opinion. I feel like this roster is the most equipped to really make a dominant playoff run if they're healthy, So I like the Sixers this season. I can't wait to see what they'll do. But Eastern Conference Finals is kind of where I got to draw the line. Milwaukee.
Milwaukee.
If I'm a Bucks fan, I'm banking on I'm at the poker table. I got my chips all in on the Damian Lillard bounce back season. They say he was going through a divorce, probably amongst other things you're dealing with. I don't know if he was in shape. I don't think he wanted to get hurt pending trade. I believe that's what I kind of had heard through the grapevine. But like I said, I got my chips all in if I'm a Bucks fan on the Dame bounce back season. He's a player that has been highly successful since he's came into the league. So I don't really know nothing less from Damian Lillard. And Giannis is the same. Giannis has had some like bad luck injury in the playoffs over the past few years. I will say this though, okay. So I'm not super crazy about this roster. They actually said today that Chris Middleton still isn't ready for 5v5 activity, and training camp starts in 2 weeks. I know he just has. They say he has surgery on both of those, right? If I'm not mistaken,
I think so. Yeah.
That's their option on this team. They did bring in Gary Trent and DeLon Wright. I thought those were good pickups. Those are NBA vets, good pros. Still got Brook Lopez. Yeesh. I don't know, bro. I'm not gonna hold you. I really need Chris Middleton to be healthy for them to really kind of. I feel like Giannis and Dame can shoulder the load. It's just having that Chris Middleton option for real. It's just another shooter on the floor that can space the floor. I just feel like that's kind of where they had their cheat code at. I might have to say Eastern Conference Finals ceilings like max.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm at with it. Eastern Conference Finals. When Milwaukee was at their best is when Chris Middleton was at his best. As much as we know Giannis was MVP and best player on the team, when Chris Middleton was playing his best basketball, that's when this team is like so difficult to stop because then you can't just double Giannis on every single possession because Chris Middleton can light it up. We've seen it. Unfortunately, now multiple surgeries. Those knees are not holding up. He's 33 years old now, so it's gonna be tough. You still got Brook Lopez, who's a defensive anchor. He can hold it down. Gary Trent is gonna be a 6 Man of the Year candidate, of course.
Right, right.
So I'm not super upset at the roster. You also got Torian Prince. Bobby Portis is a rebounding machine, and we've seen him hit some clutch buckets and really do some good things out there. It really is going to come down to Dame and Chris Middleton. So, like you said, we need the Dame bounce back season. We want to see what we were all excited to see when we first heard the trade, which was Dame and Giannis kind of having that great back-to-back tandem and playing a lot of games together. We didn't get to see them too much last season, and then in the postseason, they're both pretty much got hurt. So that's what we want to see. So it's kind of hard to really gauge them until we see them play like a decent amount of games together and see how they play against some of the top competition. Just because we haven't really got to see it yet. So I'll go ahead and stamp them as like Eastern Conference Finals potential. But
Potential
I
for
think
sure.
if we get the old Dame, it could go up a notch because we know what Giannis can do, and you add Dame to the mix, and especially playoff Dame, it could get spooky for some teams out there. We know some, but we've seen some of the buckets he's hit in the playoffs and some of the moments he's had. And Giannis has just been there before. He's gotten the Finals MVP. We've seen him clutch up in a game 6. So yeah, just fingers crossed. I want to see the best competition. I want to see the best players all healthy, and I want to see who gets it done. That's really just all I want.
Yeah, that's kind of like a narrative I have for myself, especially in the Eastern Conference. I want like a better bill of health going into this postseason run for the Eastern Conference because I feel like it really could have got interesting if everybody was healthy. On the Bucks, real quick. See, this is kind of what I'm thinking about right now. I'm thinking about the matchups. Say like Milwaukee played like y'all, the Celtics, or like the Knicks in the second round. At this point, I can't see them beating either of those teams. It's really because of like the defensive looks that they could provide. Like with the Knicks, you got like Bridges, you got OG Anunoby, you got Josh Hart, and then with the Celtics, you got almost everybody for real. Like Holiday, Derek White, Tatum Brown. Like it's so many defensive looks. I think the Celtics for the Bucks, I think that's a matchup nightmare, in my personal opinion. I just feel like Dame have to deal with Drew Holiday and Derek White, and sometimes Jaylen Brown. I love Dame. Dame is incredible, but we just got to be realistic. Like that's really that's a bad matchup for real. Like it's so many looks you could give
Yeah.
him.
It's gonna
And
be the
it's
same
like,
thing we saw that happened with Kyrie in the finals. It's just too many
yeah,
bodies getting thrown at him, and like no matter how great you are, it's tough, especially when they're all NBA defenders. Like it's tough.
everybody doesn't defend the same. So like you got to deal with one type of defense. Jaylen Brown might pick you up full court. Drew Holiday, he may not do the same, but it's still like this is one of the best defenders of my generation. And Drew, he a dog. Derek White is a dog. So it's just different looks for real. We all know Anunoby is a dog on defense. Bridges plays good defense. So it's just like I can't really. I don't know that'll just be, especially if Chris Middleton isn't at full strength in the postseason. It just that sounds like a second round matchup for real. I don't know how I feel about Milwaukee against Philly. I don't know. I feel like that'll be a more interesting competitive series, in my personal
Yeah.
opinion. I'm not trying to sound too disrespectful. This is just how I'm feeling it at this point in time in real time, especially with the Chris Middleton news. I don't know how better he'll be, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's just how I'm feeling about them though.
Yeah, it's tough. And then the same what you were saying with like Derek White and Drew Holiday being such great defenders. The reason why it would also be a problem for the Bucks is because it's not like you get to take a breather on defense because they also can score the basketball. We've seen Derek White put up 25. We've seen Drew Holiday he carried a game in the finals. So it's great that they're on the defensive end. You also can't lack on them when they're on offense because they shoot threes, they put the ball on the floor, and they do all these different things. So it's just tough for any guard to have to deal with that on both ends of the floor in any type of series. So that's why, yes, it'll be a tough matchup for Dame and the Bucks going up against them. Sure.
We got the Indiana Pacers. I love Tyrese Halliburton. I'm not gonna lie to you. For me personally, that's must see TV. I feel like when I think it was a hammy, he had a hamstring injury, kind of messed up the season a little bit.
Yeah.
That offense, man, that's like a top 4 offense right there. Rick Carlisle got a lot of things going on over there. Guys like Nimhard, Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, Pascal. They got some guys over there, man. That's a fun team. It's kind of what I said about the Miami Heat. And this is a worse defensive team. This might be one of the worst defensive teams in the
Yeah.
NBA. I feel like they can't compete at the top at the hierarchy of the Eastern Conference. I kind of feel like if they played the Knicks, it'll be horrible. I feel like that'll be a bad matchup. Even though I do like the Indiana Pacers, but they're just one of the worst defensive team in the NBA. I do believe in the Tyrese Halliburton bounce back, even though he did have a good season up until injury. I believe that he can have a full season all the way through. You had a full season almost of Pascal Siakam, so that's some continuity. You go through that into the next season. Guys like Nimhard, they signed T.J. McConnell this offseason. The Miles Turner piece is kind of what I'm hearing in the rumbles. I don't know if he'll remain Indiana Pace. I'm kind of hearing some things. I don't know how that'll turn out.
Yeah.
My ceiling with them, I would say second round ceiling max.
Yeah, I think obviously they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals this past season. I don't see them getting there this year. Just because I don't think they did enough with the roster to kind of keep up with those. Like we said, the Eastern Conference is top heavy. I don't think they did enough to keep up. Adding James Wiseman doesn't really move the needle anywhere for them. I do like Nimhard a lot. I think what he did in the playoffs, he gave us some fits in the playoffs. I'll say that he hit some clutch buckets and he did some things out there that I didn't expect, especially with Halliburton being out. He really picked up the baton and kept that team going. But this team to me is kind of in the same position where I see Orlando is like where they're gonna incrementally get better, but I don't see them really being able to make a leap because I know Halliburton is young, he's gonna get better. Pascal Siakam, he kind of is who he is at this point in his career. He's a great player.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he really impacts like winning a champ, like getting to the championship. I was surprised he even stayed there. I was expecting him to go somewhere else. And then the rest of the roster is just like I don't know. I don't really see them really. I see them taking a step back this year. Like you said, second round. I would actually say first round probably. Like
It's possible.
I just don't see unless they make a move. Like I said with Miles Turner, I don't see them really having enough. Like I said, depending on what seed they get, which I don't see them getting a top 4 seed.
No.
You're gonna have to play one of those top 4 teams in the East. I just don't see them getting past them. So
Yeah.
yeah, I got them. I mean, they got potential to get to the second round, but I got them with a first round exit.
Second round kind of is generous when you really break down like matchups, roster. It's kind of what you're saying. You just they don't have the horses to compete. Like
Yeah,
if Tyrese Halliburton were healthy, say they had to play like the Knicks, and I'm not trying to gas the Knicks up, but on paper it just looks phenomenal. Like it could get ugly for real, especially
yeah,
in the Knicks. Like Bridges and Anunoby, like when healthy, I'm ready to see this defense. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm really
yeah.
ready to see what this looks like. I
And
feel
and
like
typically in the NBA, when we see like a super high powered offense versus a really high powered defense, most of the times the defense in the series is gonna win that. And
right,
then the Knicks are not gonna be slouches on offense either. Like
not at all.
We know the Pacers offense is gonna be great, but their defense is atrocious. And I just think with them not having so much balance, like you want to like the Celtics were a really good balanced team, offensively and defensively. They're top 5 in both. I can see the Knicks being top 5 in both this year, and so they're gonna be tough for anybody to beat in a 7-game series. It's gonna be real, real hard to get past them.
Last team, Cleveland. Uh, I'll let you kick it off.
I mean, Cleveland. I'm surprised that team is still intact the way they are. I wasn't expecting Mitchell and Garland to still be on the same team together. I just feel like they're too similar, and they don't really. They never really meshed well to me. So I mean, they finished fourth. They finished with a top 4 seed this past season. I don't see them getting that again this year. So for me, that kind of puts their ceiling as a first or possible second round. But I got them personally like a first round exit. They got some players over there. I like Isaac Okoro. Obviously they got Evan Mobley.
They just
Uh,
paid a
Car-
Coro.
yeah,
Yeah.
Coro, Evan Mobley. Karis LeVert is a cool player. It's just for me, I just can't get past the the Mitchell Garland duo. I never liked it. I don't see it working. Imani Bates is kind of a wild card for me. I liked him a lot coming out of college and high school, so I want to see how much of a chance he gets with that team. But yeah, for me personally, that roster just doesn't like. I look at the roster and I just can't get with it. I would like to see Donovan Mitchell go on to another team, maybe somewhere back out west and get with like one of those power teams out west. But I just don't see him in Cleveland really making any noise. And yeah, that's where I'm pretty low on the Cavs.
The thing with the Cavaliers is you need Evan Mobley to take a step. You need him to shoot some threes from a defensive standpoint. He's kind of nice, you know what I'm saying? Like him and Jared, that's a formidable defensive front court. But the thing is, like, they need more floor spacing, and I feel like Evan Mobley is like he has to be the key. He kind of has to take that all-star-esque type of leap. You know what I'm saying? Like he averaged 16 this season. Like he kind of got to push this to like 22, 23 points per game. Or Donovan Mitchell, we know he's a star. I like Darius Garland a lot, but it just feels like that backcourt has a ceiling. And respectfully, we could be looking at a situation where that backcourt may have peaked. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want this to be a recurring thing, but I just feel like at the top of the East is just too dominant. And not for nothing, though, I know we banking on like that top four, but it's very possible that one of those four teams may not remain going into like the stretch of the postseason. It's very possible. It's just how it goes, you know. Even in the West, like everybody's penciling in OKC, Dallas, Denver, Minnesota. Like maybe one of those four teams may not be there when we're watching like in late May. You know what I'm saying? So it's just how the game goes. But with this Cleveland team, I'm kind of with you. I'm not too high on the roster because I don't really know. I don't know what they look like at the high end or like they peak. I feel like I really don't know. I'm kind of like lost for words for real. I'm trying to come up with scenarios, but I really can't. It
for me,
Mobley.
For me, it's just I can't get off the Garland and Donovan Mitchell duo because like they don't play defense really. They're both undersized. So like for that to be a starting backcourt, that gives you like that already puts you at a defensive disadvantage because they're pretty much cones out there. I mean, they got Donovan Mitchell listed at 6'3". I don't think he's 6'3". And Garland is 6'1". So it's like that being your backcourt, like you're gonna run into so many problems, like against so many teams. And I mean, yeah, we know that Mitchell can be a dynamic scorer, but like it's really about the defense. And like with that being the backcourt, I just don't see them being able to do. I mean, they just went 7 games with Orlando, and I don't think that should have. I think Orlando was kind of a year early in that. I don't think they really should even been in that position. So I don't know. It's just the Cavs are just one of those teams where I feel like they kind of got to switch it up. If I'm them, I'm just getting rid of Mitchell and seeing what I can get for him because I would just get the keys to one of those guys as far as the backcourt, whether it be Garland or Mitchell. I wouldn't have both.
Why wouldn't you keep Mitchell though?
Well, I would. Cause I think you can get more for Mitchell than Garland. I think I think they're both great. I think they're both pretty good, but I don't think you'd be able to get more for Mitchell, and they're so similar. I don't think you really be missing out much if you keep Mitchell over Garland. I think you would get more if you traded Mitchell. So that's why I say I would get rid of him. But either way,
if I'm the front office, like Donovan Mitchell, pretty much like that's star status type of play. He give you 26, 27 a game, 40 on a great night or 50 on a great night. It's his ceiling for real. I would keep him over Garland just because like I feel like you will sustain more from a star level or from on a night to night basis. I keep going back to Evan Mobley. I feel like he's the one player on the roster that kind of like has that ability to really take that next step in his game for real. And just hypothetically say he doesn't and he averages like 17, 18, that's like a 1 to 2 point leap from last year. And they'll probably find themselves back in the same situation. And it's possible they could be facing a better team in the first round instead of the Magic. So that could be an earlier playoff exit. Because say you match up against like the 76ers in the first round, you got the 6 seed, they got the 3 seed. I don't think they could beat the Philadelphia 76ers, especially if Joel Embiid is playing how we know him to play. I just can't see it for real. I think they'll run out of talent.
I got a question for you. So do you think with like you said, you want Mobley to be able to take that next step, maybe average 23, 24 points a game. Do you think he can do that with Donovan Mitchell? Because he's a high usage guard. So it's like, will he really be able to make that step with Donovan Mitchell over Garland, or you think it just has to be something that he does even with Mitchell? He just has to take the initiative and kind of take that step himself.
Yeah, they kind of without choice, because if I'm them, I'm looking at the rest of the Eastern Conference, and I'm like, everybody's kind of shoring up on their talent. Everybody's kind of filling in the holes that's missing in the roster. On paper, we have a nice young roster. At this point, it's all about development. And Evan Mobley, I believe this is what, second year in the league. He going to no. This is like his
Went to his fourth.
year. His fourth
or
is like
fifth, yeah.
fourth year in the league. He just got the bag too. So that's the only really optimism you can really have, is that player kind of taking a step. Because as far as the rest of the roster, I love Darius Garland. He just may be who he is. He can shoot the ball. He can pass. Not a good defender, like you say. He's undersized. We've seen these undersized backcourts, and Dame and CJ. Shout out to those guys, respectfully. But you just kind of plateau. They did make the Western Conference Finals for sure, but every time you lose to Golden State. But in this case, in Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, I feel like they'll have too much to deal with. I just can't see you playing like a Milwaukee in the first round, beating them, and then having to play like the Knicks in the second round. I just can't see it. I feel like they'll run out of talent in that first round. I think if I said second round, I might just go back on that and just say probably first round for real. I just feel like the East is just too top heavy. It's too much talent at the top of the East, and I don't know if they'll be able to sustain for real. I do like the roster though. I like the roster. I feel like they're one good move away. Maybe they'll do kind of what the Minnesota Timberwolves just did. Instead of losing the offensive guard, they may do away with Jared Allen, because I have heard his name come up and saying like potential pieces that could probably go away. So
a lot of teams would like him too. So
yeah, dope defensive center. I like Jared Allen too. So yeah, that's how I feel about them. First round for sure.
Yep.
Well, I think that was it. It's a little shorter than the other one. Like I said, like 6 to 7 teams in the Eastern Conference that's on Cooper flag watch for it. But yeah, man.
It's gonna be obvious. We're gonna see some obvious tanking, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's gonna be nasty. I ain't gonna. It's gonna be nasty, bro. But yeah, man. We out. Peace.